So Cecchini, we've kind of seen rumors of this for a while. Was that hard to get across the line, or was it just there was not necessarily the rush to get it done before last night?
Well, you know us. We try to dilly-dally as much as
Right.
possible and take our time. And no, we were trying to get it done, but there were some complications and some stuff that had to get figured out at the end. And unfortunately for my sleep patterns, that happened about 3:30 yesterday afternoon. So just barely got it in. And thanks a lot to the folks at Malaga for literally staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning to their time to finish the deal yesterday. So, just that's the way some things evolve, and it took us longer than we had hoped. But bottom line, we got it done. Players here, players happy, really excited to be here, and I think he's going to be a good addition to our team.
Was this a player that came on your radar recently, or was he someone you've been following for a bit?
We follow lots of young players from Argentina. We've signed a lot of young Latin players, Latin players broadly speaking. So on the radar, yes. I would say we narrowed in on this one within the last 6 months or so, and certainly we had contact with him before then. But we looked fairly broadly again, because I think one of the strengths we had going into this window was we felt, we started the season, we said, hey, we think we have a pretty good team. We're at the mature part of our cycle, and we wanted to wait and see what we thought really where our weak points were. And then, within the season, Danny Leyva emerges as well. And now you don't want to do something that's going to halt his progress. So a lot of things to kind of balance and weigh, but we were really happy overall. We got 4 guys signed this window: Justin Dillon, Brad Smith, Cecchini, and Luis Silva. We've signed 7 guys in the last 100 days: Alfonso Campo Chavez, Jovan Jones, Javier Arriaga. So we've been really busy from a transaction standpoint. And so if you look at our starting point where we felt, hey, we have a pretty good group, and now to add 7 players to that, we really feel like we've addressed the depth piece over the last period of signings. And we now, too, just objectively, we have more over-the-max players, to my knowledge, than anybody in the league. We might be still tied with somebody, but we have 13 now. We have 10 TAM guys and 3 DPs, plus one of the best goalkeepers in the league in Steph Fry. So, just again, I think there's some objective quantification for this is a pretty good team. This is about as good as you can build in MLS. Certainly there's always room for improvement, but we believe in these guys. We think that the biggest thing we can do down the stretch right now is get guys healthy. We're going to leave no stone unturned to get our athletes on the field and keep them on the field. And if we can do that, we think we can beat anybody.
Can you elaborate a little bit about what you see in Cecchini going into the roster, how he fits here?
He's a very flexible player. He's played as both a 6 and an 8 in Argentina, and we think he can fit. In the coaching staff, that was one of the big things they said to me. They said, look, can you give us a player that really addresses a couple different spots where we can be flexible? So now with a player like this in our team, it allows us to use Christian in a couple different spots. We can use Cecchini in a couple different spots. We can have different pairings in terms of those 2 guys in the midfield. So we really feel like it gives us a lot of options. And Cecchini's a little bit better going forward than maybe some of the other choices that we had there. So again, if you want to play a different look, if you want to have a different matchup, we believe that this addresses that.
He doesn't have much game experience. Is that a concern at all?
He played most of the last season with Banfield. I think he's got. Jeremiah, you can help me out here. Has he played 100 professional games?
I mean, I think it's more
Something
like
like
50, but
Okay.
He's 22.
Okay. Anyway, he's a young player. He's 22. So look, he's unproven. That's part of the reason that he's available. But look, this is a guy who is a really good young player in Argentina. Got bought by a really good club in Spain at a very high level in Malaga. Didn't work out. That story happens a lot. And look, one of the things we said last year was, when we started dipping into this loan pool with Brad Smith, we said, all right, can we find some of these guys at some of these bigger clubs? Because, at first, again, go back to 2016, we weren't getting guys in their primes from Spain and from England and from us, all right? So now we can with the increase in the spending in MLS. So how best to do that? And so we did last year. We were like, all right, this loan thing, all right? So that worked out pretty well with Brad Smith. So this is following on to that, saying, hey, can we find this guy? Maybe he's not quite ready for the first division in Spain, but that's a really good league, and so maybe he's going to come here and get some confidence and translate into a really good player for us. So we thought it was a reasonable bet from that regard. And again, in particular because we had a good loan experience. We're going to try another loan. This is a good way, especially I think with young players. It mitigates our risk in terms of some of the long-term commitments. It allows our young players from our academy and Defiance to come up and play through and compete. And it just gives us a lot more options as we build our depth in our team.
When you look back at the signing international deadline, do you feel like you checked off all the boxes that you needed and all the goals that you wanted to accomplish at the deadline?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, we haven't talked about Luis Silva yet, but we wanted to have a specifically attacking piece knowing that Will Bruin wasn't coming back this year. So I think we did that. Like I said, with Cecchini, I think he kind of makes us better 2 or 3 different ways in terms of how we can deploy Christian and Gustav and Danny and Emanuel and Jordy. So we really like that position group right now in terms of how we can play and how we can match up. Because I think that's one of the things, like, for example, against LAFC, some of those matchups weren't great for us in terms of the midfield. And again, I think now we can set up in a different way specific to them. And maybe it's different every week now. But we really felt like we did that. We obviously added Justin, got some depth there. And extending Brad Smith, we thought was a big deal. I mean, that was someone that was very important to us, and he's a guy that when we play, I think just with Brad and Victor on the field together, I think we're undefeated in the season. So I might be off a little bit on that. But again, for us, our whole focus now is, can we get our best players on the field? We have 10 TAM guys, we have 3 DPs, we have Steph Fry. And we got a lot of good players beside that, but just take that core group. Can we get them on the field, keep them on the field? If we do that, we think we can beat anybody.
Can you talk a little bit about Silva and how that move came about?
Yeah, it's you're always talking around the trade deadline, transfer deadline, and he popped up on a radar. He's represented by WMG, the longtime relationship of ours and everybody's. They work extensively in MLS, and his name came forward, and we're like, actually, that's exactly what we're looking for. So let's add him, and you guys will get to meet Luis, I think, as soon as tomorrow. So he's on a plane today, so coming in from Finland. So that one happened like 4 days. Just kind of an end of the window. Can we add a savvy veteran to help us down the stretch? Is this a guy who wants to chase a ring with us, and he wanted to chase, and we added him.
Did your experience at all with Salt Lake help with that relationship, or to know more about him?
Certainly, because I know the staff still at Salt Lake, and they can help us with character evaluations and things like that. It gives us a comfort level. I don't know Luis personally, so I can't claim that. But again, our contacts with their staff are pretty good, not just through me, but through other members of our staff. So Tyrone Marshall, as the assistant there, used to play for the Sounders. So there's lots of connections like that. So yes, we feel good about Luis and his character. We think he's the right profile for the stretch run.
Did Silva's vast experience he have in the MLS help you guys want to bring him back here, since he's played with a lot of teams here in the U.S.?
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. I mean, we wanted to add that one experience piece for the last 3 months and see how he does, and have another option. I mean, again, knowing Will was out, could we find a guy who's done it in MLS? I think he's got 30-some MLS goals, and I think it's really a good fit for him, and it's a good fit for us.
Was that kind of a late move, or were you guys planning on adding another home MLS player, or was that just kind of late?
We had the potential to do it, right? And basically, once we settled on Cecchini and we understood the cap impact of that, we're like, all right, we got a little bit left over, so can we go spend it? And this was the player. We were able to use that extra money and go get Silva. So we got 2 instead of we got 4 in the window. But anyway, we got Dylan, we got Silva, and we got Cecchini. So we spent the money from a cap perspective. Spread more money over more players.
Silva, I'm assuming he was under contract in Finland.
Yes.
Did they just let him leave? Was that a free transfer, essentially?
Mutual termination. He walks away from his contract. They let him go. That's what it was.
And with Cecchini, the reports that we've seen were that it's a 1.5-year loan, and then the option to buy at the end of the loan. Is that accurate?
Yep.
So he's here through the end of next season.
Yeah.
You guys,
that's what we expect.
You guys are full up on international slots. It sounds like there's some time left to maneuver on that. Could you provide a little bit more information? Do you have any concerns about getting that done?
Leave it to the lawyer to ask the rules questions. The roster freeze is August 30. So assets within the league can be transferred any time till then, which is a fancy way of saying we can acquire an international spot at any time between now and August 30. Now, keep in mind, Cecchini doesn't have a work visa yet. That's going to take some time. So right now we only have 8 guys that are eligible, so we have no issue as of today. If we have the high-class problem of having 9 eligible foreign players at some point, then we will go get a foreign spot for the rest of the year. And again, the price of those in general tends to go down pretty precipitously once the window closes, because they're not worth a whole lot to the teams that still have them.
So at this point, is it easier to go get an international spot rather than free one through another move with the current rosters?
I think we still got another 3 weeks, and what I'd say is we're going to look at every way to try to improve the team, and that decision doesn't have to get made now. And when we do have to make it, then we'll make it, and we'll look at, all right, do we want to move one out, or do we want to acquire a spot and keep everybody here?
Obviously, you've always talked about looking into the future, and you're always planning ahead. With so many cap that can be maybe removed or spaced next season, with so many contracts coming into an end, did that kind of take in place of the players you were bringing in?
So, in other words, did the fact that a couple guys are out of contract, did that play into who we signed or how we signed them?
Yeah, in the aspect of maybe not going extremely high on the expensiveness of a player. I think
okay.
the next year maybe you'll be able to acquire more money and have more options.
What I would say is, yes, that's part of it. We talked about we don't want to block Danny Leyva. I think on most of the guys you're talking about, we have options, and so it'll be a question of do we want to extend them or not, and those are decisions that we can make based on how the team does at the end of the season. But the other big thing that's out there is the CBA. And the CBA meaning we don't know what the cap is going to be next year, and so it does behoove us to go into a new season with a little bit of flexibility at least. And that is one of the reasons why a loan is more attractive than maybe locking yourself into something that, they could change the rules, they could change the rosters, they could, everything's kind of up in the air, and so you always have to be a little bit more flexible going into that CBA season.
Two players that we've heard are potentially leaving the organization, Henry Wingo, Sam Rogers. Can you comment at all on what their situation is?
Yeah, Sam's on trial with Liège in Belgium. Obviously, Henry was on trial with Molde in Norway. I do think an announcement on Henry will be forthcoming, but we're not in a position to say anything officially today on Henry.